everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Prime Venture Partners podcast, where we bring you conversations with various folks from the startup ecosystem. And today I'm delighted to have founders of one of our portfolio companies, Dozee, Mudit Dandwate and Gaurav Parchani. Mudit, Gaurav, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, Sanjay. Always, pleasure to talk to you, right? And such a amazing platform to be talking. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you, Sanjay, for having us here. As Mudit said, an amazing platform to be looking forward.
Terrific. As you can see, we have already got an interesting pair here because the CTO is more formal than the CEO. Great, guys. So, we've been very happy investors in the journey at Dozee, but for our audience, would love for you to start with your backgrounds, as well as what got you started with Dozee and what the grand vision is. So maybe Mudit, you can start, and Gaurav, you can chime in.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Mudit. I come from mechanical engineering, IIT Bombay, and my passion was race cars. In fact, that is what got me to IIT in first place. Then, working with the race cars over time got me very interested into sensors, data acquisition, analytics, and that eventually, one day the Eureka moment was that, if we could also build something which can monitor health of the humans as well as we do for the race cars. And that's how we built Dozee.
All right, I'll go ahead next. Hi, I'm Gaurav. I come from mechanical engineering, IIT Indore. I'm actually from the first batch of IIT Indore. And I love solving puzzles in mathematics and statistics and data crunching. That was my motivation to go into IIT. So that somebody told me engineering is solving puzzles. And that's what got me there. Post IIT, I worked in the automotive space automotive simulation analysis, and so on and so forth. This is where I met Mudit. What got me into Dozee was the fact that we both enjoyed our jobs. The problem statements and the puzzles were really really good and really complex, and that had that adrenaline rush for us. But then what was lacking was the value that we added to the society, right? In race cars and in automotive industry. That is where when we wanted to start something, we wanted something which is very high value, and what higher value than healthcare. And primarily, it is the biggest puzzle that healthcare has lagged behind other industries, probably a decade behind other industries in tech adoption and data revolution adoption. And which is where I think we took it as a challenge to kind of get data into healthcare.
Wonderful. Why don't we start with a very crisp definition of what is Dozee? How does it work? And, it'd be good for people to understand how it's priced, just a sense for some of those basics.
Sure. So thanks for that, Sanjay. Dozee is a technology that brings connected health to every bed. To expand this a bit, it's basically three components of it. First component is the physical form of Dozee, which is a sensor that goes under the mattress, converts every heartbeat, every respiration cycle into a vibration that is then converted into electrical signature that the device senses and puts it on the cloud. The second part is the AI and the analytical algorithm part that converts all of this vibration data into meaningful biomarkers to monitor person's different vitals like heart rate, respiration, blood pressure, sleep cycles, heart rate variability, apnea, and many other such biomarkers which are meaningful for clinical insights. And the third part, which is the alert engine, which takes all of this data, which is continuously being streamed, makes the trend analysis, and gives an alert moment there is any kind of shift in the trend, which can be dangerous for the health, right? And that is then visualized on the front-end engine that Dozee provides. So it's a mixture of all of these, and it's a technology, that's why I say that converts any bed into a connected bed that is there. Answering our second question, how much does it cost, right? Actually, I'll compare it to its enemy per se. So it costs less than a cup of coffee every day, because coffee is what makes you unhealthy and doesn't make you sleep, right? And it costs much less than that.
We all love our coffee. Don't say that.
So yeah, no, as in no offense to coffee, but yeah, as in Dozee cost, it's very reachable. Idea is to make technology in that way that it is accessible, available, and affordable for every individual, right? So that's what Dozee is aimed to do.
So Gaurav, maybe you can talk a little bit about, what does this mean technically, right? And what does it monitor for a patient, right? And who's the person overseeing the monitoring?
Sure. So I'll take it a step back as well. When we started Dozee, right, the problem statement in front of us was in healthcare, there is data is always missing in healthcare. We don't have healthcare data to build, let's say, risk modeling algorithms, to build early warning systems, as Mudit spoke about. To build all of these cases, we didn't have data to do that. So the first problem statement was, let's build a device that collects data on anybody and anywhere, and anybody should be able to operate that device. So this is where, when we started experimenting with a lot of sensors, we came across this technology called ballistocardiography. It was a very old, forgotten technology. What that means is it captures the vibrations that the human body produces, particularly the cardiac system as well as the pulmonary system. So when your heart is beating or when your lungs are filling in air and giving out air, we capture those vibrations from under the mattress. And on those vibrations, we apply machine learning algorithms, digital signal processing, and a lot of data analysis to extract meaningful biomarkers. Every heartbeat, every inhale, every exhale, every snoring movement, every body movement. And then we do a higher order analysis to figure out your health, your sleep, your health condition in general. So it's almost like getting a health checkup every night at home, and as well as in hospitals. It automates that process of capturing the data vitals that a nurse has to do once every 4 hours or 6 hours, depending on the hospital protocol. Now we can do it once every minute without the nurse having to intervene, and the nurse can actually focus on the care aspect of their job rather than the manual data collection aspect. So yeah, that's
amazing. And today, Mudit, this is used in a few thousand hospitals. What scale is it at now, and what are your aspirations for this over the next 24 months?
So today we are present in over 270 hospitals across India, across almost 40 cities and towns across India. The first focus was, of course, to cater to Indian market, and that's what we entirely focused on. In next 12 months, we are looking to go even deeper in this and scale up to close to 3,000 hospitals across India, get to close to 50,000 beds, save millions of nursing hours in the entire process, and many lives, right? So that is the scale that we are looking at. At the same time, we'll be also looking at expanding to certain international markets as well, to take the impact global as well.
Great. We'll come back more to the forward-looking plans later on in the context of in the show. But coming back to the early days, right? You guys are embarking on doing something where there was a piece of technology that you discovered, but there was nothing really built on top of that, and you had to imagine a product. You had to, there's a hardware element to it. There's a cloud element to it. There's a lot of data science and algorithm churning along the way. And also, by the way, being a healthcare product, it needed to go through a lot of, I guess, trials and validation and so on, right? So in a multifaceted problem like this, right, which you all took, if I recall, 3 to 5 years really to get this fairly robust. Tell us a little bit about maybe 2-3 phases of the product, so to speak, right? How you established the product, the science behind it, validated it, trialed it, and then said, okay, now we're ready to roll it out as a production product.
So, very interesting and fascinating journey, I would say. Those 3 to 5 years, which, really took us very amazing in certain ways. So I'll tell you some of the instances in that. So first stage was prototyping. That was lots of fun. At that time, there was no one but me and Gaurav. So while I used to look after the hard sensor part of it, Gaurav used to look after the algorithm part to it. And then both of us used to double down as guinea pigs, right? Because what we had made, we had to test it on someone. So then we then convinced few labs like Nimhans and all, and where we actually used to lie down with all of this bunch of sensors, close to 32 electrodes attached to our body, and sleeping in that human sleep research lab, And right, the next lab to us used to be a rat research lab as well. So those kind of places where we were there, entire nights testing and benchmarking our product, and then establishing that this is, although the science was there, but establishing it that without even touching a person, how you can give a medical grade data out, right? This was something which even we had to prove ourselves to start with, and that was the journey that we embarked on. Once we reached one level, then the idea was to get to that level that now we can use this to scientifically prove it to someone else, right? So then convincing it to few doctors, even employees as well, right? Getting and attracting the first set of employees itself was a fascinating journey. In fact, I remember that time that I used to camp at people's place, whomever I used to acquire to join us for in our journey. And I used to tell them about our vision, what we are trying to do, and then show them prototypes and make them visualize that while they are sleeping on the mattress, see how their heart rate and how those things are coming along. And that used to fascinate people, and that gave us the initial momentum which was required. Then came the phase of raising certain amount, right, to keep the company live. So getting convincing few friends and family, even government as well, right? So we raised some capital even in the form of grants, biotechnology grants and things like that as well. So a lot of places where we started using all of the scientific data, and that's how we started establishing the product, right? So this was the way we went from prototyping to scientific exploration, and then next phase was of course to productize this, right? To make it into something which humans could use, I would say, and not just the lab rats. So that was the journey, and it took us about 3.5 years to actually do all of this. Gaurav, you want to share something on this? This was, I think, one of the best times of our lives, right?
Oh, absolutely. As in less people to manage, more work to do. Again, sometimes I think, can we go back to that pace for sure? But yeah, it was a fascinating journey for sure. As in, I still remember the nights at Nimhans and then convincing, as in people at Nimhans, people at Bairak for the grant and all of those things. So we had good help along the way. And I think that is what is needed, because hardware is tough, and then hardware in healthcare is even more tough. Healthcare probably is the second highest regulated industry in the world after space tech. So you require that initial 3.5 years to kind of have something in hand which is usable in the field. Without that, again, it's very difficult. So as in, we had good support in sustaining that, plus we had a strong will as well. I think I'll give that credit to Mudit. And then yeah, from then onwards, we met you, Sanjay, and you know the story so far after that.
Yeah, and well, we'll share that story with people in the latter part of the show. So tell us about some breakthrough moments, some aha moments. You talk about your dog having forced you to put this under the mattress and things like that. Some of these anecdotes that might have been some non-obvious insights that came about. So share some of those breakthrough moments with the audience, please.
That I think Gaurav is Gaurav. Would you like to share that one?
Sure.
That pie story. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, we both of me and Mudit are animal lovers, right? Especially we used to love dogs. So when we decided that yes, we are going to start ourselves, right? And then we were very, very sure in our hearts that this is a long-term commitment that we are doing. So that we thought it's the right time to kind of also get another team member with us, which we don't need any convincing for. So we got a puppy. Which was Pi. He was teething at that point of time and used to chew everything. And at that point of time, the most valuable asset in our office was the sensor that we had, Mudit had worked on, which was actually working from over the mattress. Our initial thought process was not to go under the mattress. We had never thought about it. We had always thought about, can we attach something on top of the bed? And the sensor was working. We were able to get heartbeats. We were able to get respiratory rate, and that is what we wanted to celebrate. So we wanted to go out of the house, and it was daytime, obviously. So we wanted to grab a cup of tea, and so we discussed, okay, Pi is going to chew this thing apart. This is the most valuable thing. So let's just keep it under the mattress where he won't be able to do anything. And we forgot to switch off the recording, and we went out, had tea, came back. He was sleeping on the mattress directly over the sensor. Then I observed that, okay, there were minute heartbeats in the data. And which is where I told Mudit looked at it. Then we saw that, okay, yes, these are heartbeats. And then we actually figured out the scientific reason why the heartbeats are better, actually. Because we are essentially capturing vibrations. So when we capture vibrations at a force node, the bed base cannot move. It's a hard object. The mattress top can. So it was actually working better than what it was supposed to on top of the bed. Mudit then optimized it, actually added one more IP layer to make it work for multiple mattress thicknesses. So we were very lucky at that point of time that Pi decided to do that. Our sensitivity matched the mattress that he was sleeping on, and he slept at the exact same position where he should have. So I think all the stars aligned at that point of time, and that's where we thought we can go one level beyond. Right? It's not even it became contactless at that point of time. That it won't even touch you.
Right.
And yeah, as in I think Pi should get all the credit for all of that.
So Sanjay,
after that, Pi has participated multiple times and even still does now. We have a bed in our office where we do all the testing. So whenever all the people are busy and there's nobody available as a guinea pig to test, we make Pi sleep on the mattress and then we get his data and we test the sensors.
He thinks it is his moral responsibility to be on that bed. So whenever that bed is empty, he goes and occupies that, right? So he's like, I've made them achieve that Eureka moment once. I'll keep on doing that. So that's his thought process probably. So Sanjay, on that, I think expanding on that, this was our first Eureka moment. The second one for us was actually our first life saved, right? Even so in healthcare, it is easier to think that, when we are doing something, it actually saves lives, but another thing to actually realize that, right? Even we didn't know what is the impact of the technology that we have actually built. When we had given first set of devices close to 100, the first batch that we had created, we distributed it out in different, all the people whom we knew and so on. So that was our first batch. We got the feedback. After that, we created a batch of 500. And that was something which really changed our thought process. Because then we gave it to some people who were not really people whom we knew, but people who really, could get benefited from that, right? And in that batch was one lady who was actually living away from her mother. And her mother actually had certain cardiac conditions and so on. And that's where once when Dozee gave an alert and they got it checked with the expert, they found out that, she was actually approaching that stage. Her heart failure episode was kind of coming back, and they needed a pacemaker. And then it was a big moment for us. The family shared their story with us. They told us how exactly Dozee has changed their life, and that really brought that belief, not just between me and Gaurav, but to the entire team that, what we actually have now, it is our responsibility to now, take it to next level, because this is a life-saving technology. Done correctly, we can just replicate our success in many ways. And, since then it became the motto of the company, right? And from there our focus entirely changed. We are not just thinking that, it is good heart, respiration, sleep, good to have data, but we actually started thinking and taking Dozee as a serious product, which can help people manage their chronic condition on a day-to-day basis, right? So that was second very big moment. And then third, of course, was, when we cracked our first hospital after doing a 3-month long trial. So these were different phases, and, then that becomes repeatable. So, yeah.
So I was going to get to that. That was actually a natural segue to my next question, which is the trials phase, right? So you come up with an idea, a lot of hard work and some luck, you stumble upon what seems like a product. You create a few instances of it, give it to a few friendly customers initially, and after that, in the next level, which is sort of, let's say, a beta phase, and you see some initial successes, but along the way, sort of you need the healthcare ecosystem to sort of also appreciate what you're doing and validate a lot of what you're doing. So how did that journey happen? I know you had a lot of partnerships with Nimhans and Jaydeva Hospital and a few others. Can you share some insights into that part of your journey and probably help other entrepreneurs in the sector?
So, it is one of the most critical parts, right? Healthcare cannot be done without, having healthcare deep involved right from the time when we embarked on the journey. So we were very clear, in fact, so with few contacts that we had with few hospitals, doctors, we started approaching and bouncing off the idea that, what we are trying to do. In this, first to get lashed on that was, of course, Nimhans, right? Because one of the problems that even they were facing on everyday basis was that doing a sleep study, the awareness levels are very low, and that sleep study is very cumbersome process, right? So what the human sleep research labs saw in Dozee was that, if this actually comes to a success, this is going to help us automate this entire process and is going to make it very easy for client. And what is today a very technician oriented procedure. In fact, putting those 32 electrode takes almost 1.5 hours, right? And that too with a precision. I still remember by the time, and he actually became our very good friend, Dr. Gulshan. So by the time he used to start putting his last electrode, I used to fall asleep on the chair itself, right? Not even there. So 1.5 hours, what a gruesome time that we have to do a pre-prep and end prep and everything, right? So it was a painful procedure. They thought that, this will become very easy for them, right? So, and then they latched on to that. So which was our first insight into the hospital, where they, opened up their doors to work with us very closely. But similar thing then happened, right? Idea is that, we have to keep on pitching. At the end of it, we require only one or two to start with, of course. Doctors who really believe in what we have as a vision, and they are ready to, work with you as a co-collaborators in what you're trying to achieve, right? So, of course, most of the people will think that, we have gone crazy, right? Under the mattress, how is that even possible? In their 30 years of experience, they have not seen something like this. So they won't even listen to us to start with. And that was what happened. But, after hitting it with 40, 50, at least all that you require is one, right? Who really believes in you, who believes in the product, and more than that, believes in the people who are running it. And that's how it is. And it is true for everyone, Sanjay. I think same thing we have also spoken about how it happens with your key employees, how it happens with your key investors, how it happens with your key collaborators, right? So rejection is just a phase of it. You have to keep on doing it till you don't find the perfect ones. And once you have that, then latch on to it, build on the relationship, and go ahead with them, right? And all that it takes is just convincing one or two or three key opinion leaders, and then suddenly you have opened up a Pandora's box, and world is there to listen to you. I think that is what my understanding from this field is. Gaurav, you can add on.
Actually, yeah, just adding a small bit to it. I think very well summarized it really well. But like healthcare is like any other industry, right? You have to kind of look for, there will be people who will be early adopters, and there will be people who will follow them, and there will be people who will be laggards who won't even look at you if it's a new thing. The only complexity is here that your adopter, even if they are early adopters, they don't have time here. In healthcare, it's a very time crunched segment, where a doctor busy in their clinic or hospital hours won't even have time, and after their hospital hours, they are very exhausted to look at something new. So you have to keep trying and keep kind of hitting that sweet spot. Keep looking for people, especially in our case, who are very interested in research earlier on and were willing to listen to new ideas, which is where I remember Mudit missed it, but it was Mudit's idea to build, as in we had built an ad hoc as in system on the laptop where you put the sensor, then we used to give them a live demo. Right. So as Mudit said, that they were very surprised that how is this going to work from under the mattress? I have not even seen it in my 30 years. So we're like, okay, look at the demo. Give us 5 minutes. You only lie down and look at it. Right. So that is where that really helped. And it is now making a comeback in our product for every consumer to kind of get that as well.
In fact, now that you brought it, I actually remembered it. The way we used to play it has been some time. I have also forgotten a lot of these tricks now. So the way we used to do it and run it is, so when I used to approach a doctor, they make you sit in a cabin or something, right? So by that time in the chair, I'll set it up entirely in that way that, it will work. And I'll sit on that. He's like, no, it won't work. I'm like, I'll show him my laptop then that, see, this is working while I'm talking to you right now. So only thing is we have to just make it more stable and now make it something. So then they get tons of idea. Oh wow, this we can do it here, there, right? So, and that's how you have to latch on to it then, right? But that moment of surprise need to be created as well, right? And it's very important to
No,
yeah.
you won't believe it. Sanjay Mudit has done it at a wedding also. He put it on three chairs there,
Yeah.
and then he
Correct.
made people after dancing or after consuming alcohol or something. You lie down and then now check your vital signs. All you need to do is just lie down. And
I
people
thought he was checking the blood pressure of the groom as he was tying the knot.
live monitoring.
No, as an audience are everywhere, no, Sanjay. At the end of it, doctors are everywhere, engineers are everywhere, right? We just have to keep on demoing till we find ours.
No, and that's part of being a resourceful entrepreneur. You take all your opportunities, and you don't know when the right one is going to knock at the door, right? So, so you go through this sort of phase of validation and so on, and then what was the aha moment from a healthcare provider's perspective for them to realize, boy, this actually could work, and it's a it's a quantum leap to what we have, right? I mean, measuring vitals of a patient is always a task that a nurse has to perform, and now all of a sudden put this sensor under the mattress, connected to the internet, and lo and behold, I'm getting real-time data from hundreds of beds in the ward, right? So today, right, if you fast forward to your sales experience or demo experience, right, what is the expectation people have, and how are you able to how does it work, what's the process, how do people get convinced?
So it's still it starts with so now the thing that has changed is that they have heard about Dozee one way or other, either from their peers or they have read about it something, right? So they do have some prep ki, something like this is there which works in XYZ hospital. So at least that level is there. So but still they want to see it in their own practice, right? Seeing is believing at the end of it, right? So still we have to run the demo and all that. So we have our sales team is entirely prepped. So before becoming a Dozee sales person or Dozee ops person, you need to be entirely trained on Dozee on how to run a demo. So that's still a very important part of it. You asked about the aha moment of that, right? So it still keeps on happening. Every new HCP is our aha moment only at the end of it. But for us, a big breakthrough in this was actually IGGMC Nagpur, right? Because this was something which proved another thing, right? We always, even us, we thought about Dozee as something which was only there for high resource settings, right? And we were going after top tier hospitals and in the tier 1 metros and so on. But in this one place, we got an opportunity where they were very willing to adopt this technology. And this was in Nagpur. So tier 2 city, in public hospitals, no internet, no power, close to almost nothing, that setting, right? And the nurse to patient load like any other, right? And at that point, we actually established a central command center where 6 wards were being remotely monitored, more than 150 beds. That single center alone in last 6 months has achieved more than 800 successful transfers, right? And every successful transfer is close to, touching a life, right, over there.
A lifesaver. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and in fact, that center got even awards as well for giving that kind of care. In fact, because of such adoption and such forward-looking thinking, that center, IGGMC Nagpur, they were able to achieve the best recovery rates in the entire Vidarbha region in COVID wave 2, which was one of the worst hit places, not just in India, but globally. Right? Every day they were getting more than 7,000 patients as IPD, and they were managing that using technology. So that really changed our own outlook also, that, no, actually the real impact can be there where we had not even thought about, which is in low resource settings where we can just, create a different level of impact, right? So that was for me still, when I am narrating that, I still have goosebumps, right? So every time I think about that, that really changed us as a company, as founders, as how we look at the industry as well.
Yeah.
In fact,
So
Mudit,
actually, yeah, go ahead, Gaurav.
in fact, Mudit was there at Ground Zero in Nagpur. He was, as in, he stayed there for a few months. He made sure that that center is a success, and then he was himself basically running the ops and running the show from Dozee's side and delivering all of the data there. But one of the small, as in, let's say there are many aha moments, as Mudit said, but like one of the aha moment in terms of people that we had spoken to a long time ago as well, right? They came back during COVID themselves, right? Because their inertia to try technology was very low because of COVID. They wanted to look at new solutions. They wanted to explore new solutions on how we can minimize healthcare professional infection rates, how we can, let's say, make sure that we have optimized resource utilization. We're not burning out resources and so on and so forth. How can we have better patient outcomes? We have less number of ICUs. How can we multiply quickly, right? So this is where they were looking for more solutions, and we were just right there. So I think that was one of the magic Eureka moments, that where we got this opportunity to serve and just kind of blossomed into another solution. So yeah, really second what Mudit said.
Yeah, so as you said, COVID was it ended up being a huge, I would say, inflection point for the company. As tragic as the circumstances were, ultimately, for Dozee, it was also an opportunity to showcase the value of what you had and to serve, right, and to help, like the Vidarbha region, to have sort of outstanding, relatively speaking, outcomes here for the doctors, the nurses, and more importantly, the patients, right? So tell us a little bit of some of the war stories you all had, during COVID, right? I think, it's easy to celebrate sort of the successes, but, really you guys also, and the entire team sort of rose to the challenge, so to speak, right? I wouldn't say occasion or opportunity, but rose to the challenge and really focused on serving rather than, for commercial reasons, right? And tell us some of those experiences, maybe a couple of anecdotes, and how that has changed sort of the trajectory of the company for the longer term as well, right, in terms of its focus and yeah.
I'll share two or three very
And
important.
sorry, Mudit, there are two parts. One is about the interactions with the clients and all. And Gaurav, if you could also talk about what impact it had on the product and how you all had to, scale up and so on.
Sure. So, talking about few of the challenges we had, the stiffest one that I had, right, was given to me by Dr. Madhuri Kanatkar, one of the highest ranking, not one of the, she is the highest ranking women officer in the country and also head of the Armed Forces Medical Services. So, her team was tasked to basically erect a step-down ICU facility, one of the largest one of the country in Delhi. And the time that they had been given was close to a week. She rang me up and she said, I have this much time and, I need to erect a step-down ICU facility. So while the beds and everything will be ready, you need to ensure that, all the monitoring part is there. And we also set up the central monitoring station. And the time that I'm giving you for this is 3 days. Right? And we were in Bangalore. So close to, and where logistics and everything was close to, shut down. So in that time, not just we ensured that it is delivered, but every bed had Dozee. Every bed had monitoring. All the nurses, doctors were trained in 3 days. And then, on the day that she had asked us, we had given her a pre-demo. So she had given us a timeline of Friday. We gave her a demo on Thursday that, see, this is how entirely it is running. And from tomorrow, you can just run the entire facility. That was one of the stiffest challenges that, which was given because, and that was also a big opportunity for us, right? Because working with Army, right, is always, something that we all look up to, right? It is a next level of challenge altogether. But, then in certain way, we also took that responsibility of, working like Army also. And that's the accolade that we got from ma'am as well, that, you actually work like Indian Army, right? And the reason why doctors could sleep in my facility today is because Dozee never sleeps, and that ensures quality care is being delivered to every bed. So that was a huge moment for us, and also getting something like this from. So second such place was, also based on the success of IGGMC that I had shared. Uh, the entire Vidarbh region, right? We were given tasks to actually scale this up to 5 more general medical colleges across that region. So not just deploying devices, but even training and all of that, right? So our team actually rose from being close to a 40-member team to a 180-member team in a matter of 3 months in that COVID time.
Wow.
And at that time, also ensuring that everyone is aligned on the impact that we are for, training them on how to train other people. Right, all of that was done remotely. So, other paradigm shift for us as a company was what was a very high touch point training, making it entirely digital, running it right, and scaling it at all the time. Right, so and in fact, now that has made us ready to scale up very fast as well. Right, so in a way, all the adversities teach you, and they are an opportunity, as we say, and it has made Dozee more bulletproof as we have gone along. Right, so those were two anecdotes which I wanted to share. Gaurav, do you want to talk about how the product changed and tech requirements, how they were evolved during that time?
When I start from the first go, right, as I said, right, when COVID started, a lot of people came back to us saying that, can we explore this technology, right? And which is where a lot of doctors and healthcare professionals felt that, okay, you have pulse oxygen saturation, which is missing. Okay, you have heart rate and respiratory rate, which is amazing. This will really help us. But if you can add potentially an SpO2 module, that would really help us. So within days, our hardware team took that challenge, added that as an accessory. Our supply chain team took that as a challenge. We imported and we kind of procured thousands of SpO2 modules in the time where they were going scarce, attached it to our devices, made sure that they're working. And they were all dispatched across the country. The first installation I remember which we did was in a stadium like environment in Mumbai, and our team was in Bangalore who was making these devices. So making sure that when the devices reach there, to have all that troubleshooting and kind of make sure that they work was again another issue. One of the biggest challenges, again, which was not solved with tech, but which was solved with logistics, was Wi-Fi. In most of these facilities, in government as well as private, the hospitals did not have Wi-Fi, and where they had, it was not good Wi-Fi. So our devices were facing problems in getting online and making sure that the healthcare professionals have access to latest data, live data that is coming in from the patients. So we kind of made sure that we are on our personal Aadhaar numbers, me and Mudit and other team members, we got SIM cards, we got dongles, and then we kind of dispatched those dongles until we could kind of procure a bigger batch of these Wi-Fi dongles. Beyond that, there were always logistic challenges that were always there. For example, we were used to 2 to 3 terabytes of raw data coming to our servers every month. Suddenly, wave one, we had 15 terabytes or so, and suddenly wave two, we had more than 30 terabytes that month, right? So that was the peak load. So there have been nights where we've been fixing things in the background and making sure that the end consumer, which is the healthcare professional, the nurses and the doctors, they are receiving data on time. So the 8 a.m. triaging report should go at 8 a.m. Should not go beyond that. So that was basically the challenge. We did have hiccups. It was not a perfect system. But then, yeah, we managed to kind of close all of them as soon as possible and kind of deliver close to a seamless experience to all the healthcare professionals, which got us more and more installations going ahead.
We also added a lot of reports also with Gaurav mentioned, right? So those triaging reports and all of those, these were almost, and I remember that time also, I'm almost in a ward outside that. And I have made it on a paper, and I told them, the team, that, this is how the doctors want it, right? Need to be done it, in next 2 days. And that used to be done, right? So that is how the pace of product changes and development was, while the scale was increasing almost 10x every month, right? In terms of, the load which was coming to server. So I think that was another challenge which was there, which was
everything was accelerated, right? From product development on what type of report is to be made. Mudit was there at the hospital grounds. He took the interview of the doctor. Okay, this is what we need. He arranged it on a piece of paper, sent it to us. within a couple of days it was live and reaching the doctor. So the doctor themselves were like kind of surprised in terms of the speed, plus everything else like development, management, deployment, testing, QA, everything was accelerated at that point of time. And we did not care about structures at all. We did not care about tools. There was no kind of formal everything. It was like whatever is needed to get the job done as quickly as possible, let's do it. So we were as informal as possible, as unstructured, but we made sure that we delivered on time.
And then
right. And at the same time, I have to add that, this is also at a time where what we take for granted is that the team was learning to work from home. You grew the team from 45 to 180, as you said. So you probably hadn't met half the people during that period of, I guess 3/4 of the people during that period of time. They were being onboarded into the product, into the company, and hit the ground running with something that was chartered with the responsibility of saving lives of people directly. So it's quite incredible if you look back. I'm sure hopefully we don't have such scenarios, but these are moments that really bond teams together. Tell us a little bit about that part, right? Which is less to do with healthcare and more to do with entrepreneurship and how these adverse moments become opportunities, and how did you all handle it, and what advice you have for other founders?
So we have one more thing, right, which is very native and core to us, since we are healthcare, and this was also time. And one challenge which you missed to touch upon, Sanjay, was also that all of us were also affected personally at one level or other, right? Everyone's family member, dad, mom, even people who are being hired, people who are there, everyone was affected as well, right? So, and that's where it created the second difference, that all of us almost have a positive impact because of Dozee. We all use Dozee. We encourage every team member to use it, and not just for them, but also for their parents as well, grandparents if they have them as well. So in fact, when they join Dozee, they get a package of lots of Dozees. And so what we also want to instill is that entire feeling of caretaking, taking care of your own health, taking care of your family's health, and that is a feeling which cannot be taught. It needs to be learned on the go, and that is our crash course into how do you take care of each other. And that instills a lot of values about the company and the way we build the culture. A lot is done for caring for others. And there were times when something happened or someone was affected, quickly someone else took up that job and ensured that there was zero downtime, right? And that is how we learned it. So the caretaking part is also not just looking at each other's data, but also sharing load, mental health, and all of that, right? In fact, I know that when my parents were affected, I left for my hometown, but at that time business never got suffered, right? Samir, Pritish, Gaurav, all of our team members were right there to share the burden, and that is how it happens, right? And that is the core of entrepreneurship, I would say, right? If we can understand this core value, that how to work with each other, how to care for each other, I think that is what it takes.
Gaurav, I'm sure you have some thoughts.
Sure. I think apart from what Mudit said, I think not just in healthcare, but in any type of entrepreneurship is, I think, persistence. COVID particularly made sure that a lot of industries suffered, particularly travel and leisure and all of those things. But persistence is something that keeps people going, right? And kind of adaptability. So how do you adapt to it? How do you kind of change, pivot quickly? We saw a lot of companies that were into, let's say, fabric-based businesses kind of shifted and kind of quickly started making masks, right? And so on and so forth. So persistence is something that I think both of me and Mudit had kind of talked and touched upon even pre-COVID as well, because as I mentioned previously in our conversation also, hardware is tough and healthcare and hardware combined together is even more tougher. So which is where you require that initial 3.5 years, and which is where you need to have that sort of patience and persistence as well, that it is going to work out. Let's keep at it. Let's not let our guard down. I think that is very, very important. And apart from that, for any entrepreneur to kind of carry on for a long period of time, Mudit briefly touched upon that, an awesome team is required. A couple of guys or one person or 2-3 people cannot do it. You need a strong team standing at the back, supporting each other. And this is where I think a crisis like COVID is also a filtration process as well. As in, you get to easily kind of, everything is accelerated. So you can easily accelerate in an accelerated manner, filter people in terms of look at, okay, who is aligned with the vision, who is kind of willing to kind of go the extra mile to kind of get that vision into reality. And at the end, that is exactly what matters. So I think these are the two things, persistence and a strong team. I would say that any entrepreneur, not just in healthcare, any entrepreneur requires to kind of, these are like, as in a couple of things that may lead to success. Obviously, you need a lot of other things as well. But then these are good two core values to have.
Great. No, and we had the privilege of being associated with you guys just before, I guess, COVID started, the first wave, and really at that time had no idea that this product could have a role to play in that. But it just was fascinating to see how the need was there, and you guys, rose to the occasion without sort of thinking twice about whether it was the right long-term thing to do for the company or not. In hindsight, it ended up being something really good from the long-term perspective as well, because you all sort of made the product really robust in the process. So looking ahead now, right, there are multiple opportunities facing the company. There's the entire in-ward monitoring of patients, whether it's for private hospitals or for public hospitals. There is the opportunity to turn every bed into a step-down ICU, whether the patient is in the hospital or at home. There is the opportunity to take this product global. And, of course, there are certifications and things like that need to be done, and you all are working on. So maybe, Mudit, you can talk about how you see the opportunity space and what some of the specifics you all are doing for each of the sectors. And then, Gaurav, maybe we can come back to you and you can talk a little bit about this whole certification process that intimidates any sort of healthcare technology entrepreneur, and how you all see it and are going about it. So we'll start with Mudit, and then I'll come back to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, so opportunity is huge, right? In fact, to a large extent, even intimidating. So it's a loaded gun, right? And that's the phrase that I have actually picked up from one of the top cardiologists while I was speaking to him, Dr. Ashok Seth, right? So he was saying that India and the world is a loaded gun today, because every year we are adding close to 20 million new cardiac patients and only 152 cardiologists, right? How are we supposed to take care of them without technology?
Can you repeat that number again? 20 million new patients and an incremental 152 cardiologists, specialists?
Right. And this number is, I am giving you a very specific one segment number, but this is true for a lot. Diabetes, just pick it up, right? How many diabetologists we are adding, right? Close to 200. How many diabetes patients? Close to 30 million, right? Those are the numbers that, and I might be off, right? In diabetes, I might be off because I don't look at that market, right? Cardiac, sleep, and all those markets.
It's true across all specializations.
It's
in India,
true across all
the capital of the world. Yeah.
Correct. And this is India, but this is true. And with elderly care and with elderly population growing like anything, right, all across the world, these numbers are only growing. Second thing is that so far, last 2 decades, the world and healthcare has really done well in intervention. So there are 3 phases to care. First is prevention, second is intervention, and third is management, right? Prevention is don't let it happen. After it has happened, intervene and stop that. And when it is there, then manage it so that it doesn't escalate further. So while the intervention has done really well, right now, aortic replacement, wall replacement is like any other surgery, right? At every anything, it is happening like just about anything. But when the wall replacement happens, that person needs to take care of their health for next 5 to 10 years, right? Till they are there. And that's the huge market which is over there, right? And I don't want to talk in millions and billions over there, but it's a huge number. Secondly, right, And this is only growing as the elderly population is also increasing, right? So it's a huge opportunity. Second, even talking about the second Indian trend now, right? India's dependency on medical devices and supplies, close to about 90% of medical devices we import. Just imagine if we really are talking Atmanirbhar, right? As in, how is it even possible that 90% of a very important vertical we are importing, right? And that's the opportunity over there. Even if me and Gaurav spend our lifetime also, no, still that I think opportunity is there for going after, and that's why we believe that this is the one that we are entirely committed to. In fact, I'll briefly touch upon one more initiative that we have taken right now, that we have to also scale this up very quickly, and we have realized that what is the impact that what we have created has on even public healthcare. Million ICU, right? So that is an initiative that we actually took during COVID times. But the idea was that healthcare infrastructure is not ready for taking up the load which is there, the loaded gun phrase which I used. So we have to quickly scale this up. We don't, unluckily we don't have time for doing this. And that's where our vision is that every bed should have quality care, be it private hospital, be it public hospital. And in India, like country and across as well, there should be at least 1 million ICU beds, in which quality care is delivered continuously, regardless of what kind of human resources are being committed towards it. Right? Human resources are never going to be enough, and we have to take care of a lot of people. Right? So that's what the healthcare is about now. So yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to, creating that future.
Tell us a little bit about maybe another level of detail about Million ICU. You came up with a very creative way to fund the use of Dozee for public hospitals. Maybe you can explain that a little bit for our audience.
So Million ICU, that's basically a concept for quick adoption across in public healthcare settings. In a way, giving a kind of accelerated trials in public healthcare settings so that they can quickly evaluate the technology and then adopt it in their day-to-day usage. Right. So in that, not just we implement the devices, removing all the otherwise very painful processes of procurement and all of those, removing them, and then going about training, adoption, and then really creating that value of saving lives, improving the efficiency, and digitizing this entire system, right? And when the system realizes, then automatically the higher adoption happens, right? And that is the concept, which is the Million ICU concept.
And how is it financed?
So it is financed through foundations, CSR corpuses of corporates. Right. So in this, these foundations and corporates basically contribute for initial adoption of the technology. And once the value is realized, then the hospital takes over, right? And then it continues. So it is also a very sustainable way of, adopting any new technology as well.
And because it's a IoT connected device, enabling the bed, you can provide virtually real-time reports and things like that, even to the donor ecosystem.
Absolutely, right. So that's one of the things that we our donors love, the transparency that we provide. In fact, our every donor also gets a dashboard where they can see what is the impact of the money that they have donated, almost in a near real time as well. That how many nursing hours have been saved, how many successful transfers have been achieved, how many patients have been monitored, how many hospitals it has been deployed across, and all of that.
Great. So I'll switch gears to Gaurav a little bit here. The moment you talk about healthcare and data and crunching data and coming up with insights and things like that, obviously the positive side is that we're able to get better outcomes and achieve a lot of that with scale like never before. And yet, in the world, as you look at in all other aspects, people are, genuinely concerned, and rightfully so, about, data privacy issues, and some of this is super sensitive information. Not to mention that, does this actually work properly. And, there are organizations like the FDA and others that need to, first of all, certify that it works. And then secondly, does it meet all the privacy standards, and especially with things like GDPR in Europe and India's Data Privacy Act, and everybody getting sensitive. How have you all thought about it, and how is it baked into your architecture, and how do you see yourselves addressing both of these dimensions?
It's a very big and a valid question for any entrepreneur in a related space. If you look at the regulatory as an infrastructure, right, it combined together, it asks 4 to 5 different questions, right? The first and foremost is patient safety, right? Is if you have a hardware component in there, is the patient physical security compromised or not, right? Is there any issue that your device is going to cause that? So there are separate regulations and certifications for that. One of the ones that we've done is IEC 60601, which involves fire safety, which involves electrostatic, EMI, EMC, electromagnetic radiation, and so on and so forth. Radioactive, as in RF emissions, and so on and so forth. Which is where we prove that the device is very safe to use. All the values that I spoke about of all the tests are within the controlled range, and it's very safe to go into an hospital environment and even the home environment of a user, and can go on as a medical device. The second question that comes is basically, is your data secure enough or not? Which is where cloud security, which is where data security, whether it's in hardware, whether it's on the cloud, wherever it is it secure enough or not? Which is where regulations like and certifications like ISO 27001 and the other ones come into picture. The next question that comes is have you considered data privacy while making your architecture or not? Do relevant people have access to data, or can there be a leak of data privacy, or can there be an abuse of it or not, right? So which is where exactly multiple regulations, you can actually prove it from ISO 27017, GDPR standards, HIPAA standards, where these apply directly, and you, as in using these standards, you can actually test your system and get third parties like TUV, BSI, and other reputed agencies to kind of do an audit of your system and give you a full report in terms of how compliant or how not compliant you are, so that you can take corrective actions post that. These are the 3 major important questions that start. But then post that is when the tricky part begins, which is exactly where your risk, benefit, and your claims, all of these are put in a matrix and analyzed whether it's a good enough product to go into the market or not, depending on the geography. So India has CDSCO, US has FDA. These are the bodies that analyze all of that. So they take an application on a case-to-case basis. There are multiple ways to go through each one of them. So for example, to go to FDA, you have 2 different strategies, where let's say if this is an innovative product and you say that, okay, none of this technology exists before, there's a de novo approach where you have to prove that my claims and my benefits are aligned, plus the benefits are significantly outweighing the risk. So it is worthy enough to go into the field. Now for this, you need to do a usability study, you need to do a clinical trial to prove this case. So it's almost like you're fighting a case in a court, and you need to kind of prove it, and then so that they give you an approval that you can go ahead and market it. Similarly, the other approach is, let's say if there is a similar product, can you prove equivalence or prove non-inferiority to these products? If yes, then FDA has given them an approval. So you should, by that logic of induction, you should also get approval. So that's one of the ways as well. Similar is for, and then based on this matrix, it's also analyzed on which category do you fall under, class A, B, C. A being the least risk, B being the moderate risk, and C being the highest risk. So they take the applications on a case-by-case basis. A is faced with least amount of scrutiny, and C is the highest. So that's how long you can say that my FD application will go. Dozee falls in class B category. So we expect a moderate pain while going through this process and all of those things. Similar is the structure for CDSU in India, where all devices now starting October 1st, 2022 have to be registered, 2021 have to be registered with CDSU in India, whether they are regulated or not regulated. And next year onwards, everybody has to get a license, which is where license involves the classification of the device, class A, B, C. So these bodies fall into that, where they analyze your risk, benefit, and your claims, and see if everything is matching or not, and if the product is worthy enough to go to market or not. The next that comes in, the last one that comes in, which is a very good to have, and which is actually a prerequisite on the FD and CDSO one, is your hygiene, process hygiene. are the processes in your company, and this is not a product certification now, this goes to the company level now, are the processes in your company built with good hygiene or not? Are they fail safe or not, right? Are there backups or not? What is the procedure for, let's say, if there are any claims or if there are any, let's say, failures in the field? So these are ISO 13485, particularly for medical devices. For non-medical devices and non-medical companies, it's ISO 9001, but more scrutiny involved, 9001 converts into 13485. And you have similar versions of it covered in every geography's law. So India has MDR 2017, which is medical device rules. Europe has MDR 2017, which is European Union medical device rules. US has CFR, 21 CFR, so which is basically their set of rules, which are very well aligned. And if you kind of go for a comprehensive ISO 13485, that satisfies all of them, which is basically your company is hygienic. So start from the first question: is your device safe to use? Are you handling data really well or not? Is privacy taken care of or not? Is your risk minimal and your benefit outweighs it? Are your claims in line with your benefit or not? And finally, your company's hygiene or compliant to the hygiene processes or not? If you tick all of these 5 questions, then you're good to go and you're good to sell, good to scale up, and good to market. That's
in nutshell, what Gaurav is saying, he's doing a very complicated job.
No, it's
Actually, I like the way you simplified it at the end. It's just the three.
It's just these 5 questions that you need to answer. If you're answering them well and if you have good justifications for each one of them, all of these agencies where I spoke about FDA, CDSCO, the third-party regulatory agencies, BSI and TUV and all of those guys, they only look for whether you're compliant and whether you have justifiable answers for each of their question or not.
Wonderful.
With evidence, I can. Not just answers, evidences also. Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to close. It could go on and on. I think we're already well beyond our longest podcast, but I'm sure with 2 guests, people are going to enjoy the discussion. 2 quick questions, or one last question for both of you. I guess 2 questions. One is, if you had not started Dozee, what would you see yourselves doing? And the related question is, what do you guys do for fun?
So I would have been a Formula 1 engineer, right? So that is how I think. And what we have for fun, as in we have dogs. We go to dog trails, cycling, hiking. That is, where. And I think that is where both of us also tick off very well, because what is this off work also, we really share that interest, and it is required actually to keep up with each other. So, yeah.
Gaurav, you're welcome to say different things.
It's very difficult to pinpoint on what I would have been if not for Dozee. I was kind of lost in a lot of options when Mudit came and approached me that let's do this. That gave me purpose actually, and that gave me meaning to my skills and my effort. So, but if not Dozee, it is very difficult, but there is a good chance that I would have returned back to academia and gone for a PhD or become a professor somewhere or something like that. That would have been the idea. But then I can't imagine it any other way now. So I think I'm very happy and content where we are, and looking forward to go in this direction. Apart from what Mudit said in terms of dogs and trekking and all of those things, two additions. That was, one is basically cooking and eating together. Like that's one. So I love
cooking and eating. What good are you doing to the world then?
and then bike ride. So I have a good motorbike. So I kind of, whenever I get free time, I try to kind of hop onto it and then go and just plug off.
Wonderful. Great. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to add?
So I have a question for you, Sanjay. So, related this entire topic of healthcare, and I think you did touch upon that. So, since, you are a fintech guru, right? And this really, the inflection point of this entire payments adoption was the demonetization movement, right? Which happened. And since then so yesterday I had actually shared one video with you of that, payment of Diwali,
Yep.
of on a cow as well.
Donations, yeah.
Correct. So we have reached that level now, right? There is no cash, as in even for the smallest of thing you are looking for Paytm now. That is Paytm, PhonePe, and all of these. That has become the norm. Do you think that for healthcare, the shook up that happened for the world with this COVID, COVID was that inflection time, and or we are again going to go back to that same old normal of not caring about our health and still being very blind about healthcare per se, right? So what is your
So actually, I would say that even for the financial services sector, really, unfortunately, COVID was the real trigger. I think demonetization kind of, people learned about this whole new way of doing things, but then once the cash came back, people broadly went back to that. It was an education moment, but not sort of a forcing function. And as much as COVID has been sadly very tragic for all of us in many ways, if there is a silver lining, it's that this whole idea that digital can actually address a lot of the issues. I think the world has been, for the digital ecosystem, the world has been fast tracked by 5 years at least, right? And I don't think billions of dollars of marketing and education could have done what COVID has done for this, right? So it's sort of a bittersweet. Obviously, obviously we would have been happier had it not happened in some ways, but I think the world has learned that there are benefits, whether it is to digital payments, whether it's to telemedicine, whether it's allowing people to work from wherever they are comfortable working and creating sort of the future of work environment, which will be a hybrid environment. And you've seen several other new announcements coming out in the ways people are doing things. And I think people now will be open to saying the age-old ways in which we were doing things are not necessarily better, that the newer ways might actually be better from an outcome perspective, from a results perspective. And I think people will be less rigid about doing things in a very specific way. And that's what we're seeing here, whether it's with Dozee, or we're also investors in M-Fine in the healthcare space. And of course, we're seeing this in financial services in droves. We're seeing this across the board. I think you needed to go and meet customers in the past, but now, even if you go physically and in the same town, you're expecting to have either a Zoom call or a Google Meet or what have you. So those boundaries have been broken down, right? And so even the way you guys are approaching your FDA approval, you're not physically going and sitting in the US. But I'm sure 24 months ago, you would have just gotten on the plane and sat there. And it may be slightly inefficient in a few ways, but overall the productivity will probably just go through the roof over a period of time. So yes, it is. In many ways, I think it's going to be a moment like, I would say, in my generation, I've seen 9/11 as a similar moment, where I think we had a certain mindset before, and post that, we had a different thing. It's sad that I think mankind, we tend to react to some of these negative moments and come out stronger. But that's true with adversity. I think even in startups, even in personal lives, adversity is really what forces us to think better. But I'm very bullish about the opportunity moving forward. So I think we are going to see sort of a takeoff point from here. Solutions from India, solutions for India, as you guys are working on. And really kudos to you guys for having gone through this amazing roller coaster of a ride. And hopefully from now on, I'm sure it will be still a roller coaster, but it will be mostly trending in the right direction. And wish you all the best in the journey ahead.
I had one last question.
Sure.
I'm sure, and this is not healthcare related. I'm sure you've seen companies go from 0 to 1. I think you've been a founder yourself, and you've also seen companies go from 1 to 100, and it is fair to say that in most cases beyond 100 as well. So
and I've also seen companies go from 1 to 0, by the way, which is quite painful.
which is also a very valuable experience for sure. So in your experience, what is the common feature that the companies went in the right direction that made them hyper scalable? What was one common feature, if you had to kind of point that out, or even more than one, I would be happy, but at least one?
So I think the founder's self-conviction, right? That cannot change over time, right? I think there has to be, what we're really seeing are founders like yourselves who kind of have seen the future before us, right? And are believing in it, even though in between there will be people who don't believe in it. And your ability to sort of paint the future, and over a period of time, it becomes clearer and clearer to you yourselves, right? As to how you're going to get there. But there is no doubt in your mind as to where you're going to get to, right? And if anything, the future is probably 1,000 times bigger than you yourselves had imagined, right? And I think that really, and then if you think about folks like Elon Musk and the others as well, right? They're seeing things that others have just not seen. And so people think that they're crazy, they're silly, they're whatever, because people are not able to visualize what they're able to visualize, right? So that's one. But then coupling that with, the grounded execution along the way, right? And some calculated risk taking, right? And I think those are probably the three sort of common factors here. But along with that, it's, obviously team building, making sure you get the right people on your side. So the empathy for them, etc. These are all things that are, I would say, arrows in the quiver everybody needs to have. But none of that will work if there's no clarity of thought on the founder's side as to where they want the world to go. But thanks, guys. Enjoyed the conversation, and look forward to publishing this. I'm sure Gaurav is probably going to get a lot of questions from others who are looking at the whole certification space, and I guess you'll have to pay it forward with some free consulting with a lot of young entrepreneurs. But amazing work you all have done so far over the years. Kudos.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Dear listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app for free, and you'll be the first one to know when new episodes are available. Just search for Prime Venture Partners Podcast in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Castbox, or however you get your podcasts. Then hit subscribe. And if you have enjoyed the show, we would be really grateful if you leave us a review on Apple Podcast. To read the full transcript, find the link in the show notes.